Welcome back to Newfound Happy Hour. My name is Sarah, and this is episode 10 somehow. If you're just listening for the first time, this is a podcast where I talk about all things relating to Newfoundland, so social life, local businesses, and all the people involved with it. So today we're talking to Alison, who is one of the co-owners of the Calm Place, which is a fairly new clinic here in Newfoundland. I believe it's been open for about a year. And so, yeah, today we're just talking to her a little bit about the business and why certain therapy services are really needed here in Newfoundland. So I don't have that much to say. We'll just get into it. But a quick disclaimer is that there is a part where we do talk about sexual abuse. And so just wanted to give a little bit of a trigger warning that there is a part where Alison is kind of giving some examples and we do discuss that. So just wanted to let everyone know and we can get started. Well, I'm really excited to do this one today because I haven't talked to someone about a local business in a minute. So Do you want to start with your name and your age? I know your age because you had a birthday yesterday.
Yeah, so Alison Petton is my name, and I turned 33 yesterday.
Fun. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I always start with how I know the person I'm talking to.
Right.
So I was trying to think, I don't remember when we met. I don't know if you do.
I think it's one of those things that I guess is more common these days where maybe we had some Instagram connections, but then I think maybe Rachel and Kara might have been a connection for us. We connected socially through them. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a bunch of mutual friends and I think we just saw each other out all the time.
Yeah.
And then next thing we knew, we were having drinks in your apartment.
Great. Love it.
Which is a beautiful apartment, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you're a co-owner of the Calm Place, right?
Correct. So myself and my business partner, Jenna Kane, we opened it together. Yeah.
Right. And what is your educational background to be able to open this?
Yeah. I'm a psychologist and Jenna's a counselor. And to be able to open it, I mean, that part of the question is kind of funny. I don't know. We just went for it.
Yeah.
But no business background. But very, very much involved in therapy for a while now.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, I follow the Instagram and everything, but what is the Calm Place and what do you offer there?
Yep. So the Calm Place is a wellness center. It's primarily therapy. So we have psychologists and counselors, a number of us now, actually, some full-time, some part-time, but, able to take clients on and accommodate, different varying types of schedules and things like that. And then we have 2 massage therapists. They're twins, actually, Megan and Aaron, and they're incredible. And then within the therapy realm, we also have a couple of play therapists. So people who can work with really, really little ones. And then we also have a space within our space to do groups. So some group offerings, we have regular mindfulness classes. We've done some small yoga and some workshops and things like that.
Okay. That's awesome. I knew it was primarily therapy, but I didn't know because I knew there was other things that you offered, but that's a good chunk of different services.
Yeah, it is. I'm quite pleased with it, and who knows where it will go. And there's definitely the hope or dream that we would even expand further and have more services. But yeah, we're pretty happy right now.
And you said you were involved in therapy and whatnot before. So why open your own clinic? Would you call it a clinic?
Center? Yeah, I often call it a clinic. Yeah.
Yeah. So why open your own?
What a great question. Probably could go on a long time about that. I think to kind of sum it up or categorize it, there's a few reasons. So one would definitely be the aesthetic. Or the vibe of a space. So it was really important to myself and Jenna to create a space where people actually feel calm and regulated, because in my experience, and I think in Jenna's and maybe other people's, I'm not painting every clinic with the same brush, certainly, but they feel more clinical, like there's fluorescent lighting, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe outdated furniture, or the extra effort or energy really didn't go in to creating, like they may have incredible clinicians, but the space itself doesn't have that feeling or that energy. And so that was, I would say, my probably biggest component of the vision, was for people to come in and then feel like a wave of calm. And that's kind of the feedback that I've got, which is so incredible. Like, in even down to the lighting, like you'll never see a fluorescent light on at the calm place, and it's all really intentional lighting and sounds, whether it's ocean waves, or calming music, or like a faint heartbeat in the background. Like, it's all very regulating in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the sounds that you hear. So the vibe is a huge part of it.
Yeah, I've seen the
And then,
before and after pictures
right.
and what a transformation. Like even the outside of the building you
Oh my
you
god,
redid.
yeah. Yeah, it was like, well, my parents were very involved, actually, because a family friend owned the building and what was there before. And it wasn't something that needed to be pretty. It was like an insurance company, so of course, it was the way it was. And it was also closed for a few years before we came in. And my dad sort of said, you can make this, the most beautiful spot on Lemartin Road. And I was like, yeah, I doubt that. But we did. And I
Yeah.
feel very, very comfortable saying that it is really beautiful, especially inside. So I think that part of the mission was achieved for sure. And that's, like I said, people come in early for their appointments just so they can sit in the waiting room and regulate and get calm. And that's a really beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing, I think, because with the busy schedules that we all keep, and not being able um to slow down or have a space where we can just kind of have that sip of coffee and just let our shoulders drop and just kind of sit, is important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before about accessibility.
So that's another part of it. Again, not to paint everyone or every place with the same brush. Certainly not. But I do think it's hard to find accessible locations. I have mobility issues myself, and so navigating stairs, or even sometimes people think that they're really accessible, like having a ramp, but the ramp is wooden. And with our, unpredictable weather, it only takes a drop in the degree for that wooden ramp to get really slippery.
Mm-hmm.
Or, they have a button on the door, but the button never works. And so there's a lot of pieces that don't line up when we look at physical accessibility. So the building, the way that we have it, um, sort of design, quote unquote, is that there's a main floor and then an upstairs floor. So there's two entrances. So it's kind of like the complex is two separate entities within the one. So you can go to the side entrance, and that will bring you into certain office spaces, or you can go into the main entrance. So the main entrance is ground level, and we have like an accessible door, and all the like, it was all completely ripped out, so the hallways are wide enough, the doorways are wide enough. We have an extra large room, and we're working on getting some even more accessible elements to it. So that was also important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I know I've seen, I don't know if
Hmm.
it's TikToks or just like maybe
Hmm.
Instagram posts, like people, there are people who do go around the city and test out how accessible different buildings are, or different
Yes.
companies or businesses, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's pretty interesting, and it's definitely something that people need to be more mindful of.
Yes, I agree. And also moving into the notion that it's not one size fits all. So, people thinking like, how many times have I noticed going into a business that they have a button on the first door, but then they have a porch and another set of doors, but no button on the next door. So,
Hmm.
like, hypothetically, somebody who needs the door opened can get into the porch, but that's it. So, there's just these things that are really not working, and we need to
Yeah.
collectively get better at it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what were some of the challenges to opening a business?
Some of the challenges, I don't know. Like, part of me wants to say everything, and part of me wants to
Yeah.
say, oh, nothing. It's been great. It's all been challenging in the sense that it's very consuming. You really need to put 100% of yourself into it to get the product and the outcome that you envision. Like, you need to be responsive and present and ready to, like, answer all the emails, or do all the paperwork. And like, there was a lot to do with the city and the planning, and getting permits for the renovations and getting permits for accessibility. And there was so many pieces that, yeah, that I'd say it's challenging in the way that it was consuming, but
Hmm.
not, maybe not maybe not hard, but very consuming.
Yeah. Time
Yeah.
consuming. And I guess like
Yeah.
I mean, it all worked out. But yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, there's a lot of pieces that have to go together, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And things that you don't I mean, I don't know about everybody. No, it's only me, but things that I never expected. Just like, oh, this permit has to go to these 6 people and it takes this many months, and it's, this
Yeah.
like, just things that you don't know.
I don't think you would know any of that until you actually do it.
Yeah.
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 And what about choosing your team? Because I was looking on the website and
Yeah.
you have a good sized team of like different
Mhm.
people and the different services they offer. So was it easy finding all of them?
Mhm. I would say that was probably the biggest worry at the beginning, if I'm really honest about
Mhm.
it. Is like, are people gonna want to work here with us? Because it was just Jenna and I at the beginning when the construction was being finished, and just the two of us in an office each, and we have 8 other rooms. So
Yeah.
it was like, I hope people come. But they did, and they do, and we're happy to say that we're at full capacity now, pretty well.
Mm.
So, yeah, to answer your question a bit more specifically, how do we find them? We did a little bit of advertising, as you probably have caught on. Like, our Instagram is definitely where a lot of our energy and our intention goes.
Mhm.
We try to really, cultivate that vibe and aesthetic that you experience when you walk into the complex, when you visit the Instagram as well. So I think we haven't needed to do a lot of marketing. Like, people have kind of found us and been drawn to it, and that's been really beautiful. So, and then I guess for me, I want people who are like-minded. So the calm place, for example, like the name is comes from like a trauma informed activity that I've done many times in my practice with clients. So trying to regulate their nervous system and get them calm so that we can actually go forward and do the work, which is sort of simplifying it. But um to simplify it in the way it would be is that they would tell me about their place that they feel most calm at, and by imagining it, it actually, like, the brain doesn't know the difference between what's really happening and what's not happening. So by thinking about it, they can access calm. So people who get that, people who are also interested in regulating, their clients, and allowing them to find their calm, and trauma informed practitioners, like, all of that's very meaningful to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think it's a lot of like
Hmm.
it seemed to me just looking on the website, um,
Yeah.
kind of more people around our age, like millennials. Do you find that that's the average client that you're getting? And do you
Like
offer
that age
services
group.
for all ages?
We do. Happy to say that we can cover all the ages. So we have 2 therapists that are um, child practitioners, or they have much training in play therapy and working with kids. And then we also have, the rest of us who are skilled in working with teens and or adults, all the way up to senior age. I would say you're right though. Yeah. Like the I would say average age is probably, maybe people seeking it out themselves might probably land between 20 and 40 in the age range. That's my rough guess.
Mhm.
So I do think therapy is still something that's sought after more in our younger group.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I was thinking that like our generation is way more open about mental health in
totally.
general and therapy and I guess like you said, like seeking it out more to better
Exactly.
themselves. I guess for people who
Yeah.
don't know, like or who have been kind of afraid of it, maybe what is therapy?
Yeah. Oh, what is therapy? Oh my gosh, I don't even know how to answer that. Um, I can tell you what it is, I guess, for me as a provider is a space to, for the most part, it would be to feel safe. So that's easier said than done for a lot of us. Like, we may not feel safe in our relationships. We may have not felt safe, in maybe our childhood home. So like, as a trauma informed clinician, like, often I am working with people who have some level of trauma in their past. So creating a safe space is a huge part of it. If we can't accomplish that, when we can't do anything because it won't feel safe to do the work. And then I would say, for me, another piece is like learning somebody's history, but in a way that feels safe, and then helping them understand that the way they are now makes sense in relation to what has happened to them. So I'm not as much drawn to, the diagnose. Sometimes it's fitting, but, not, oh, you have this or you are this, but rather, oh, you do this because of this thing that happened. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's so validating. And that's kind of what therapy often looks like for me and my clients.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, I feel like a lot of maybe
Hmm.
people in the older generation have a bit of an outdated view on it. They think that it's
Hmm.
for a certain kind of person, that maybe you're
Definitely.
weak if you seek it out,
Hmm.
especially men. Just
Yeah.
going from like just comments that I've heard from older men about it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like, what do you have to
Hmm.
say to people who maybe have that outdated view?
Yeah, what do I have to say to people? I might say, give it a try. See how it feels. You might be pleasantly surprised with how safe or calm you do feel. But I think the reason why that happens is largely due to how we've cultivated our society. Things are definitely shifting, but most of the adult men today were babies and children in a time where it still wasn't encouraged, right? So in fact, it was the opposite. Like, boys were very much driven to, toughen up, like, oh, you're fine, get up, like,
Right.
scratch their knee, and then it's like, oh, you're okay, and then sister scratches their knee and they're consoled and they're put up on the counter and they're, you
Mm-hmm.
know like, so the way that people even have um set the stage for it, like, it, so the adult men that we have now were children in a time where things were not approached the same way. So it's the children that are boys now, or, gender whole thing, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
are going, hypothetically, will grow up to be hopefully men that feel um more comfortable and encouraged
Mm-hmm.
to go and see a therapist if something feels off.
Yeah, that is the hope for sure.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. And in your experiences,
Hmm.
well, do you think Newfoundland specifically needs this more? Or is there anything specific to Newfoundland that you
Hmm.
think, like, we really need these services offered?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I like it. I don't have statistics for you, but I think yes. So my sense from experience as a clinician, and then talking to other clinicians, and some of the statistics that I have been exposed to, I just can't draw them up right now off the top of my head, but
Hmm.
we have a lot of childhood trauma here, especially in rural areas. So there's a lot of abuse that happened, and then these people, of course, grow up to be adults, and like, sort of like I said, like, they don't know why they feel or behave the way that they do, but it's in response to, of course, what has, maybe happened. So if we're not in therapy, not being in therapy is just one example, but if we haven't healed, or perhaps we don't have the awareness of where our responses come from, then we may not achieve the level of healing that we could otherwise. So, for example, we have a really alarming high rate of obesity here in Newfoundland, comparatively to other provinces. We also have a really high rate of childhood trauma and sexual abuse in childhood. And that link is there in maybe a way that's surprising, maybe not, but that often, when we haven't
maybe done the work or done the healing or come full circle with trauma that we have, the way that we cope may be maladaptive. It still works and it's still clever of us to figure out a way to cope. But in this example of obesity and childhood abuse, it could be that people who were abused may end up with disordered eating as a way of protection. So they may binge eat or become overweight because the mind then realizes, well, I'm not going to be, this is the way the mind perceives it, is that I probably won't be abused again now, in that I'm, less attractive or whatever the mind may tell the person. So it's protective and functional, but of course maladaptive. And then in that we then have a whole other health issue, that obesity and being overweight can lead to a lot of other concerns for our longevity and our health. So so to bring that back to your question, treating trauma and being able to help people heal can offset the likelihood that we step into these other realms of coping. Drinking is another one. So we see a high rate of drinking here, and that's not a healthy or adaptive way of coping with trauma, but it does tend to work short term. So it's something that people will find and land in, and then again we have these other fallout health effects because the person is coping the best way that they know how to, but not in the ideal way. So
Yeah, that's so interesting because I actually wanted to do an episode on, because I have some friends who are dietitians.
Yeah.
And so I thought it would be cool to like talk about specifically, because I did know that statistic about the high rates of obesity. And yeah, like I was curious about where that comes from. And I was kind of thinking more so diet, but that is such a good point of it.
Yeah. There's definitely, and it, of course, like, again, not painting everything with the same brush, but it's a way that we can, cleverly, our brain can protect ourselves.
Also, a really good book that just recently came out a couple weeks ago that gets into these different links in Canada, between assault and abuse and childhood trauma, and then the trajectory of a person's life and how much more likely they are to end up with some of these conditions or health concerns, is outlined very brilliantly by Gabor Mate, and the book is The Myth of Normal. So something that people might want to look at if it's an interesting topic for them.
Yeah. And so, I mean, obviously you have a lot of, like you said, trauma-informed approaches and things like that. But I mean, myself, like, I guess for my mental health, I've dealt with some anxiety, some panic attacks. But I wouldn't say much else. But everyone can benefit from therapy. Right.
For sure.
So I guess for anyone, if they want to get started, how do they do that? What's the best way to just do it, get started, find a place?
Right. Yeah. And that's a good point that you make, Sarah, like that it's not always, heavy trauma in the background. I mean, I think we all have stress and adversity in our backgrounds. We don't have perfect lives. I've met, nobody who has, but there's not always trauma, right? So sometimes it's a dysregulated nervous system or anxiety, but simply because of anything, like to use your example, diet, or maybe fast-paced culture, or how many things we have on our plate. So there's sometimes I actually have a client who comes to work on anxiety, and we only do 2 sessions, and then they're ready to go, because I teach them what happens in the brain, how they stop it, from like an actual very like pragmatic logistical approach, not getting into their history, and then they're on their way. So there's definitely many reasons that someone will come to therapy, and a way that they could get started is, obviously I'm going to speak about the Complace, but they could send an email to us, through the website, complace.ca, and then that would come to myself and Jenna. And then we match somebody appropriately to their needs. So that they might give us just a couple lines on why they want to come. And then we will make sure that the person that they're going to see is the appropriate fit for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it seems like a really easy booking system on your website.
Thank you.
Because I was looking into it because I actually wanted to start therapy about a year ago. Yeah. And almost to the day, actually, I quit my job and I switched jobs and I didn't have insurance for a little while. Right. And then I kind of just put it off. And now, especially after talking to you today, I'm like, okay, I should just go and do it.
It's great self-care. If not, how often do we have an hour where it's truly intentionally just about us? Mm-hmm. Everywhere we go, it's like a mutual conversation. It's like give and take. And okay, yeah, they're asking me how I am, but I also need to ask them how they am. This is an hour just for you. So even if nothing else, I think it's really good self-care and a good practice.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. And that's true. Like it's I guess it's a non-biased person. Because obviously if you're talking to a friend about your problems, they want to be like, no, you're great. You're perfect.
Yeah.
Or like, just really encouraging. And sometimes you need to have an unbiased person tell you.
Totally, objectively.
Here's
like
what's
actually
up.
This might not be great, or actually let's talk about this, or have you considered that? And yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Or just to tell you that you're doing the best you can and you're awesome. Like, being validated at the core is like at the very foundational level. If your therapist isn't validating you, then you don't have a good therapist. Like we love to feel validated. It's what it feels so good. So that's a part of what comes out of it at there's so much more, but that's a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And what are some common things? Like I have a bunch of girlfriends, a bunch of friends from like different, I guess, different friend groups who all kind of link together. And like, I'm just thinking of common
challenges,
common things. Yeah. Common challenges. Especially for people, teenagers and people our age, maybe I think there's a lot of relationship issues that cause anxiety or that cause stress. Are there specific things that you think are like common to see?
Oh yeah.
Like I'm thinking like specifically, I know myself and some friends have dealt with some narcissists here and there. Yeah. And like, I used to coach cheerleading and I know a lot of teenagers see like a lot of unhealthy relationships, like love bombing and all these things. So I don't know if that's what you think as well.
I do. I see it a lot and it's really concerning. And I don't know if it's like, if we had the access to understand, is there anything to do with the location that we're in, or is this consistent across the board? I know it's consistent across the board to a degree because I learn about it and I don't learn from people in Newfoundland. I don't train, with people in Newfoundland. So to a degree it's a concern, but it seems a bit staggering here, doesn't it? It's a lot. And narcissism comes from different things. So like to not get it too complex or get too deep into it, like it can come from neglect in childhood. So somebody not getting enough nurturing or validation, or the opposite. So often getting overly nurtured or coddled. And then, someone growing up to think that they are, what they were told as a child, like you are, you're the most perfect, the best thing that ever happened to this planet. And then that is what they believe, or the opposite, in that they really didn't. And then that's the way that their brain needs to cope, is to not have that emotional intelligence, or to have that ability to be empathetic with others. So and then people accepting partners that are narcissistic then is the other piece of it, right? Like we can't really help the narcissists, unfortunately. They are stuck in their ways. They're not going to go to therapy. They're not going to go seek out the support because they don't identify as narcissists. But the other piece of it is the people then who partner and accept perhaps less than they deserve, or, enter relationships that are unhealthy.
I think that's a big theme, is
Yeah.
accepting less than you deserve, because I'm guilty of it. I know a lot of my
Yeah.
friends are guilty of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Me too.
definitely a common
Yep.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head for sure.
Mhm.
It's hard. So, like you said, love bombing is a reason that we might do it. It's psychologically, like, when something is, it's almost like addictive, like, and something feels incredibly good, or we get like this surge of validation, but then it drops, or we get the opposite, but then we really want that surge of it again, and then we get it, and then it's like, oh, okay, we're in this waiting game of getting it again. And then the other reason I think we might enter these situations where we accept less than we deserve, or we lose touch with our worth, might be related to our backgrounds. So, again, I won't paint everything with the same brush, but oftentimes, if you look closely, you'll see that perhaps that person who's accepting that um, didn't have a great template for relationships, in that maybe their parents divorced early, or maybe their parents stayed together but fought all the time. So their version of what's acceptable or normal or healthy actually is skewed from what is healthy. Or one of their earliest relationships while their brain was still developing may not have been healthy. So again, like, that template is skewed from what actually is ideal. I think people think the ideal is not attainable either. It's like, well, this is good enough. I'm not going to find better than this. So we stay in those.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the thing too. Like, especially here, it's like sometimes you have the mentality of, it's so small here and there's no one
Yeah.
else. Like, it's such a small dating
Yeah.
pool or things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
And
actually,
that, I was going to echo what you're saying and say that's why I said earlier, I wonder sometimes how much of it might be related to location, or how much it is a representation of everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, I'm always so curious about that.
Mhm.
But something actually that I was just thinking of, like the past month or so, like a lot of stuff in the news,
Mhm.
or I mean, social media, like the whole thing with Adam Levine, how he's cheating on like this Victoria's
Right.
Secret model. And then a couple months ago was like Tristan Thompson and Khloe Kardashian. And
Mhm.
like we were talking about it, me and a couple girlfriends, of how our first thing to say is, oh my God, well, if someone's cheating on Khloe Kardashian, we don't have a prayer. Like, there's
Right.
no hope
I've
for
heard
us.
people
Like,
say that. Yeah.
Adam Levine is cheating on his Victoria's Secret model wife.
Yeah.
Well, how are the rest of us supposed to
Yeah.
find someone, right? So I don't know if that, I
Mhm.
don't know if you have any comments or
I
what you
do
think about that.
actually.
Because we were like, it's
I
more about the other person, but we're so quick to
Yeah.
think it's about us.
Yeah, it's so true. I kind of love that you brought that up, because I've said it to the girls as well. Like, when we watch like The Bachelor or Bachelor in Paradise, or like whatever, kind of trash we fall into.
Yeah.
Um I love it, don't get me wrong, but it is it is pretty awful. Um but I I like how these people struggle the same way that we do, and they are, objectively like the tens, or they're
Mm-hmm.
like whatever physically, but they struggle the same way. It's like they make it about them, or they can't handle the rejection, or people end things for no reason. And so I guess what I mean is that I think a lot of us individually struggle so much with the rejection, or the fear of rejection, or what it means, the story that we weave about it, then that it means something about us. But when I see like this, like 10 out of 10 human going through the same self-doubt and fear of rejection that or all the friends in my group
Mm-hmm.
go through, well, it's really validating that, oh, it's not a me issue, actually we all have this experience, which is still concerning, because what's going wrong
Yeah.
for us to collectively all feel such incredible doubt. But it's comforting in that it's not just us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, true. And it's, yeah, like it's not about the person being cheated on, or not even so much being cheated on. I guess like people just not
Mhm.
respecting boundaries. Like it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah,
It's about the
exactly.
person not respecting that.
Yeah, but the mind is a meaning-making machine. So it's going to, if there's an event, if there's an experience, immediately the mind is going to try to find meaning for that. And if we already have any level of insecurity, then the mind is going to validate that insecurity by making the story about us not being good enough.
Right. Interesting. The mind is the brain is
Mhm.
a sneaky thing.
Yeah,
It's
it
so
sure
interesting.
is.
And yeah, so I always end with advice. So either advice that you have for people or advice that someone gave to you
Mhm.
that really resonated or that you like to pass on.
Yeah, I think that's a great way that you end it. The thing that I think probably has been, or one of the things that's been most helpful in my journey, and I give it to people quite often, especially in the therapeutic space, is to get out of your head and get into your body. So, what I mean is, we try to intellectualize things, like we very naturally use the cognitive part of our brain first. So our frontal lobe, which great that we have that. um,
Mhm.
but we need to settle into our body and trust that our body knows what's good for us or not. So an example of that might be if you're dating someone and you feel really anxious, then that's your body telling you it's not for you. But we'll go into our mind and we'll think, well, it could get better, or actually I'm probably anxious because of this, or if only I say this, or if only I text him 10 more times, or we get
Mhm.
into this intellectualizing. Um, so that's just one example, but getting out of head and into body also has like a neuroscience component to it as well, because if we are not in a fight or flight mode, if we're really calm physically, then we have access to the most clear thinking that the brain has. So by being calm first, then we can think about something quite logically. But when we skip that part, when we don't calm the nervous system, then we're thinking about things from a fight or flight informed perspective, which means we're going to, you know, not think clearly. We're going to have an anxious
Mhm.
thought. We're going to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, to get out of head into body, take a deep breath, a long exhale on the out breath, or a long exhale, short inhale, get sour candy popped in your mouth,
Mhm.
go for a massage, many ways to get calm, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's almost like take a step away before you react
Yep.
to
Yep.
things.
For sure.
Love
Yep.
that. Um,
Yeah.
oh, well, this was so nice talking to you.
Yeah.
Congrats on the calm place. It sounds like a very calm place.
Thanks. Come by anytime.
Yeah, I might have to. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on Instagram or your website?
Yeah, yeah. The complace_NL is the Instagram. Complace.ca is the website. And we're on the Merchant Road. So yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
Love
And
it.
yeah, like congrats on it. It's so,
Thank you.
I mean, to own a business at 33 is amazing.
It's still pretty surreal, I won't lie, but yeah, it's been a big year and I'm feeling great about it. And thank you for thinking of having me. It's
Yeah.
lovely
Oh,
to
of
be
course.
here.
Well, I saw everything on Instagram and I was like, this is cool and needed. So
Yeah. Well, thanks.
thank you.
Anytime.
Thanks to Allison again for that one. I think that was such a good conversation. And I think it's really interesting how specific things in our province can lead to specific stresses and experiences. And obviously, she knows what she's talking about. So if you're looking for a sign to start therapy or look into it, I think this is it. And I think the Calm Place is probably a good place to start. So yeah, thanks for listening. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Newfound Happy Hour, and stay tuned for the next episode, which will be October 14th. And that's going to be talking about Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. So I think that's going to be a special one too. I'm really excited for it. I think it'll be another interesting listen. So stay tuned for that one.